Yes, welcome to the Vanguard Show today. My name is Malik Ishmael, the host, and I have a very special guest today. It's going to be Dr. Tawanda Boatner of the Free Spirit School of Ministries, Boatner's Sparkle and Shine Cleaning Company, and the Ulas Hayes, should say the Dr. Ulas Hayes Political Action Committee to discuss the legacy of Baton Rouge civil rights icon and her grandfather, Reverend Dr. Ulas Hayes, and also her work. And she's maintained a wonderful legacy in carrying on that same tradition. In addition, she's done a great job with preserving it. It is my guest to bring on the stage, and it's Dr. Tawanda Boatner.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, how you doing? Everything good?
I'm doing fine. Yes, it is.
Yeah, absolutely. It is such an honor to have you on the show, and I have to admit, it's like I looked at some of your work through the community in Baton Rouge, state of Louisiana, and nation, and you've done a wonderful job, and not just in relation to my great uncle, Dr. Ulas Hayes, but also in your own right. So definitely, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
All right, and let me first ask you, tell us about your upbringing, education, and when you first became aware of the legacy of your grandfather, Dr. Ulas Hayes.
Okay. I'll start with my upbringing. As I got older, I realized it was different than most people. With Reverend Dr. Ulas Hayes being my grandfather, everything was a teachable moment. And me and my sisters, my parents have 5 girls, 5 daughters. So we always talk about, because we always called him Daddy. When Daddy would pull up, we would run and cut the TV off. Because when he entered the room, the first thing he asked was, what's Matthew 18:18? What's Psalms 37? We had to know scripture. But he also taught us we were not allowed to watch TV all day, because he said whatever you meditate on gets in your spirit. So certain shows we were not able to watch. But in our upbringing, I find that because at one particular time, he was the pastor of like 4 churches. Antioch Baptist Church in Norwood, Louisiana, Winding Chapel in Cheneyville, Louisiana, Mount Zion Spiritual Baptist Church off of Hardin Boulevard in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and St. James Baptist Church in the Eden Park area. So we was in church all day long.
Okay.
Starting with Sunday school, so we couldn't miss. And with my mom being his only daughter, she definitely had to be there. Okay. So he didn't spare the rod even when it came to us. Sometimes if we were late, he would say, well, welcome in, Sister Joyce and daughters. Y'all late today. Always be on time because God is on time. So he always had those teachable moments, but he chastised us as well. So even now today, with my grandfather being deceased since 1990, we teach our children certain things we can't do because we're not going to stain his name, because he stood on dignity and integrity. Right. So in our upbringing, church was a lot, but politics was a lot. We laugh because we say Reverend Hayes would put a Bible in one hand and a political ballot in another. Because I can remember seeing him type up political ballots probably since I was about 8 years old. So we were introduced to a lot of pastors, a lot of governors, mayors, city council members, judges at a very young age. A lot of them depended on him. And one of his good friends, United States Senator Bennett Johnson, he just passed last year. But I can remember him calling Reverend Hayes and asking him for advice on what to do in Washington. So the upbringing was amazing. We don't take it for granted. We did a complaint coming up because it was like, it's got to be something outside of church and politics. It's got to be. Because our lives was just different. And because of who he was, my mother made sure that we stood on integrity. We couldn't go out there and be fast-ass little girls. It just was not allowed. Yeah. We wanted to party and do things like other kids, but it was like, no, we did some things, but a lot of things because of what he stood for in the community, we were not allowed to do. Okay. So on Sundays after church, he was the head chaplain at Earl K. Long Hospital. So we went to the hospital and went room to room, and we prayed with the patients as well as to the nursing homes. He loved to deliver fruit baskets. So everywhere he went, he delivered fruit baskets and prayer. So my upbringing, I can say, it was strict, but as an adult, I'm grateful because he prepared us for what lies ahead.
Oh, beautifully said. And I do recall Uncle Ulas coming by grandmother's house, Rebecca Hayes Anderson. And whenever she was, he'd always drop off some eggs, fruits, and he'd just leave it by the garage door. And then granddaddy or grandmother sent me out to get it because he had to go somewhere. So he was always giving in that aspect. And again, the few times as a youth, I got to, see him and talk to him a little bit because, I was a child. He always was so impressive as a man. Yes. Now, I was going to say, after you discovered your grandfather's advocacy, was that the main reason you became involved as an activist, advocate, and also a voting rights advocate as well?
Actually, it fell in my lap. It's nothing that I asked for. I started working officially for elected officials when I was 22. And I started working at District Court 19 JDC Clerk of Court office. And my mother was a supervisor at that time at the Clerk of Court office. And it's amazing how lifestyles kind of flip-flop. She was a teacher first. Then she started working for the Clerk of Court. I work for the Clerk of Court. Now I'm a teacher. But because of who my grandfather was, the political doors were always open. So when I left District Court, I started working for Juvenile Court under Judge Pamela Taylor Johnson. And these individuals remember the hard work that my grandfather did so that they can become elected officials, because when he got started, there were no Black elected officials. The first Black elected official was in 1968. Okay. So looking at the things that he's done, I kind of thought I wanted to get away from it, but people kept saying, no, you're doing like your grandfather. The mantle has passed. And I kept hearing that repeatedly. Right. Because my whole life has been centered around ministry and politics, and none of my sisters walk in politics. I'm the only one. Oh. They didn't want to do it, and I can understand because it has changed drastically, but we do talk about it a lot. Okay. So when I kept hearing the word mantle, I started studying it, and I say, God, this is something I can't give up. This is legacy, and this is something I have to pass on. Okay. And I definitely want to share a picture of Great Uncle Ulas, if I can. Let me see if I can boot this up, just so people can see Great Uncle Ulas. And let me know if you can see it on your screen as well. Okay. Can you see it? Yes, I see it.
Yes. Now tell me about, again, the impact that Uncle Ulas had in Baton Rouge as a civil rights icon. I heard about bus demonstrations. I heard about, obviously, voting. Give a history of Uncle Ulas in somewhat a summary fashion.
Okay. One of the things that he's most noted for is giving guidance and instruction along with Reverend T.J. Jemison and other pastors with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King in the March 1953 bus boycott that happened here in Baton Rouge. They were successful. It ended early, but they were able to give Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King that guidance he needed to go to the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955. He also was very instrumental in the Freedom Riders, voters registration and freedom schools, sit-ins. It was a lot of participations. He's listed in the newspaper over 600 times. Wow. So that in itself is amazing, from 1930 to 1990. So I've gathered all of that together. But with the Freedom Riders, that I have the movie and the book. He spoke about it, but I didn't realize the danger of it until I sat down and watched the movie. That was a dangerous time on the interstate when those individuals were brave enough to challenge that particular part of the civil rights movement. With the voters registration and the freedom schools was to educate people, because we have a lot of people that didn't know how to read and write. And on the Hayes side of the family, they were very brilliant individuals, and they were educated even when it was almost impossible. Right. And this is one of the pictures. These are the organizers of the 1953 Montgomery bus boycott. That's Reverend T.J. Jemison, Miss Victoria, my grandfather. He was young on there, very young. It's quite a bit of a story.
Oh, wow.
There's Mr. A.C. Belton, who was in the 2nd Ward, Reverend Young. It's a lot of the old names and photos that I did receive that I still have.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing. Now tell me, are there any particular books on your grandfather, or have you considered writing a book about him yourself?
Actually, I do. There's a book that I went to the Louisiana Book Festival, and I found myself in there when I was leading the Martin Luther King March for the city of Baton Rouge under Mayor Kip Holden.
Wow.
And I saw the picture of my grandfather and the rest of the individuals who organized the Baton Rouge March in 1953. So when I saw those pictures, I said, okay. I started posting a lot of his accomplishments, and my friend, attorney Gail Holland, said, no, stop. You need to write a book. You have too much information. She said, this is legacy. So she got me in contact with an attorney. I'm waiting to hear from him. And she referred me to Joyce Reed, someone to help me publish several books, because it's so much information about my grandfather and during the time. And I'm going to also get my nephew, Brandon Williams. He's going to do a documentary with the ones that are still living, like Judge Curtis Calloway, Judge Freddie Pitcher. These were individuals that he helped get elected their first term.
Oh, okay. Incredible. Also, I was going to tell you that I always referred to Great Uncle Ulas as the Red Stick Revolutionary. It's something I called him after I found out from my cousin Brandy, actually. And I think Aunt Ruby used to tell me a little bit about, because I was so young when I was around him. And so Brandy referred me to a Wikipedia page. Is that another source where people could read about your grandfather?
That's correct. They can find the Wikipedia page, and he's also listed in the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. So they can go on that website, and he's listed in there as well.
Okay, all right.
And it's a couple of books and websites that does list him and some history. Yeah. I just don't know who those in particular people are, but it's some research that's out there that other people are gravitating to. He's also in the East Baton Rouge Parish Library in the genealogy department. There's a department where I found a lot of his pictures. I was able to label a lot of family pictures and a lot of his accomplishments in that area.
Okay, all right. And again, we're going to go back to yourself, because you're also the chairwoman of the Democratic Parish Executive Committee. Are you still in that current role, and what does it pertain to?
That's correct. That particular committee, we endorse candidates, Democrat candidates. This year is a very busy year for us. We have an election that's coming up in March for Louisiana Representative, District 69. We have our congressional district for our United States senators, our United States representatives, and judges. So this is a big year for us to endorse candidates. I'm also the first vice president of the Louisiana Federation of Democratic Women. We endorse candidates as well. We do a lot of hands-on, like Women in Blue. Most of the time in May, we go to Washington, D.C., and we go to the Capitol. But it's also, it's an honor to be, I'm also a parish board election supervisor, which means it's 5 of us who are over the entire operations over all of elections, all of the laws, to make sure everybody do everything based on the law. We work closely with the Secretary of State. And I call it an honor because I told my mom, I didn't know that my grandfather ran for what we call DPEC, the Democratic Parish Executive Committee. He was blocked because they said he had too much power. This was in 1971. I was 2 years old, and now I'm the chair of that same organization. So that shows you how God will pass that mantle down. What man try to stop, God will manifest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting you say that, because I wondered where I got my activism from. I found out my mother, Vera, won contests for writing. And then I became a writer, and I found out about that only 10 or 12 years after she had passed. And I think my Aunt Ruby and I believe my Aunt Barbara told me a little bit about my mom. And then I was wondering, where did I get this activist gene? And I've been committed ever since. And I think we share a common legacy with Great Uncle Ulas as well. Does that, I mean, just knowing that, does that really motivate you to keep pushing? And also, I do want to make sure that if someone could learn more about your committee, the Democratic Parish Elective Committee, how to maybe look it up on website or what have you.
Right. It's listed up under the Louisiana Democratic Party, and it lists all the members. We consist of 17 people as a body. 5 of them are at large, 12 we represent each district. The district that I represent is District 8, and the districts that we represent are actually up on the city council. But the civil rights activist that's in us started from Pop Benny. Pop Benny is actually the founder of the Manual Aid Association. And that was many, many years ago. He was in politics and real estate, in the 30s. So it was very interesting to find that out, that they did a lot for the communities. They had an organization called SOUL, S-O-U-L, where they wanted everybody to be a part of something. They didn't want to leave anybody out. Justice was the number one thing for my grandfather. I believe one of the most important lessons that he taught me, I can remember everybody would come to him when they got in trouble or they knew someone who got in trouble. So I asked him and I said, Daddy, why do everybody come to you when they're in trouble? And he told me these words. He said, I'm not the judge to determine guilt or innocence, but I am the person to make sure justice is served. Yes. He said the same justice that goes for the white person is going to go for the blacks as long as I have a voice. So that has always stuck with me. And in leading that, when we had the Gina 6 March, I was honored to be the lead coordinator for the Louisiana State Conference NAACP. It was a lot of work, and I have to give a special shout out to Mars Chestnut because his manager was the first one on behalf of a celebrity that called. A lot of them called, hundreds of them called just to say, what is it that we can do? We see this noose on the tree. What is going on in Louisiana? They were just totally in shock. So I am grateful for that opportunity. It was a lot of work, lots of work, not much sleep, but it was successful. It was a successful movement.
Absolutely. And I did see a recent post of yours on Facebook and of you and Reverend Jesse Jackson. Talk about, meeting him, possibly working with him, because I have a similar history with him, at least in terms of a platform. Talk about that picture and your relationship with him.
Okay. My relationship with Reverend Jesse Jackson, I had the opportunity to work with him a lot in the New Orleans area. He did come down to work with the Louisiana State NAACP. At that time, I was the executive director over public relations. So I was a communicator with a lot. We worked close in hand in Gina 6. As you can see on one of the pictures, I'm tuned in to what he's saying before we getting ready to march, before we move. At the time, we had the interim president. His name was Dennis Hayes. He's not from Louisiana, but he's a Hayes as well. So we will talk and collaborate about safety first. Let's get this march on the move. Let's see what we can do to help these children. This is an injustice, and we're not going to stand for it. Then the last time he came down, maybe a few years ago, I had the opportunity to work with him at the legislature. He came down for the educational committee, and we talked about different things as well. But it was an honor to be able to work with him, being a civil rights icon from the time and then that he represented.
Oh, definitely understand that. I think my interaction was not as deep as yours. I was on a platform with Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Reverend Jesse Jackson, myself, and others, and I spoke at a Mumia Abu Jamal rally. So I'd always see Reverend Jackson, and whenever there was an issue or situation, he would always be there. And what do you admire most about the legacy of Reverend Jackson?
What I admire the most is his history, not being afraid to fight, being nonviolent in a time where it was very crucial. The mistreatment that they endured to make sure that we have the things that we have today. We have a long way to go, but we've made a lot of progress. So I will always hold that deep, that he stood in the forefront without any fear to make sure that we move forward as a Black race.
Okay, right on. And I did recently see some of the Cheneyville Mardi Gras pictures. I love to see Doug. I saw Bootsy. Talk about because I always love seeing you doing things socially and in the community. Talk about the Mardi Gras celebration in Cheneyville.
The Mardi Gras celebration was amazing. As a matter of fact, a member of the DPEC board invited me, Miss Brenda Carter, and she's from that area. So she fills me in a lot on the Anderson side as well as the Hayes side. Her sister is married to an Anderson. They've been married 52 years. The family is extremely huge on both sides. So I hadn't seen Doug in years, but Doug is kin to me on the Hayes side. Of course, his mom is the brother to my grandfather's sister, Aunt Sally Hayes. So we're related that way. Right. So we're related that way. So the Andersons, to see Hardy Anderson and a lot of the Wallace, the Snowdens, the Squares, the Dyers, the Franklins. When I did the genealogy, I found out that we're all in there. It's just a matter of how they're connected. But it's a huge family. As a matter of fact, I went back home to Little Zion Baptist Church where my grandfather was ordained in 1953. And now I'm at Winding Chapel as well, where my cousin Bishop Albert Anderson III is the pastor after my grandfather's passing. So it's just amazing to be back to those family churches because our great-grandparents went to Little Zion.
Right.
Sally Hayes Henderson. Our great-great-grandfather was a pastor as well, Reverend Jesse Hayes. He had a church in Clinton, Louisiana. So it's just amazing to be back home and seeing everybody and knowing that cousin Daisy is still alive at 101. It's a blessing. She has a story to tell. So I did speak with Bishop Anderson and say, you need to go talk to her, get the stories, start writing them down. Cousin Josephine, when she passed, she was 111. She had a lot of stories to tell. So a lot of the Andersons have lived a long time, very long time. And both sides, I'm Anderson Hayes and you're Hayes Anderson. So that's amazing.
Absolutely. Beautiful combination. And I will also tell you, I remember Reverend Odell Tickles.
Absolutely.
Yes. No one did a sermon quite like him outside of Great Uncle Ulas, that's for sure. They were great orators.
Right. He's on a most marriage license. I have a lot of the documentations because I wanted to have documents, just not word of mouth. When I started the genealogy, I started it in 1997 with my grandmother. So she started giving me names. And I was blessed at the time because I was working at the clerk of court office. I was able to get the probates, the marriage license. I even have a ticket that was given to our great-grandfather, Reverend Jesse Hayes. And it's probably from the early 1900s because he was born in 1863.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing. And I know that at least in terms of the genealogy, and I want to see if you can confirm this, the Hayes line goes back to at least 1797 in America with the birth of my fifth great-grandfather, Baron William, born in Monrovia, Liberia. Did you hear of his name before?
I've never heard of his name, but I do know there's an admiral. And I do have a notation that he arrived off the ship from Africa. So I do have that information when it comes to the Hayes. Now, I do have the Williams, which is on our great-grandmother's side, Elizabeth Williams. So that family, Elizabeth Williams Hayes Giles, because she remarried as well.
Okay. And I do know that William eventually evolved into Williams. And I remember going over to Aunt Sally's all the time, and they'd be family reunions there or get-togethers. And do you remember visiting Aunt Sally?
I did, on Plank Road. She had all of the pictures, and I was very hurt when her house burned down because she had most of the pictures. Yeah. And that's when I discovered she was named after her grandmother, Sally Henderson Hayes.
Oh, wow. That's powerful. And also, I'd like to see if you've done any additional family history that you could share that, or something that you have in terms of a project that you may be getting together in terms of
Yes,
genealogy.
I do. I'm gonna form a book. I just bought another family heritage to download everything in the computer. I have our great grandparents. So I was able to go back to the early 1800s, like 1822. Henderson, Cyrus Henderson, our great grandparents. So it's amazing. The Hendersons is a huge part of our family, which is very big. Most of them still are in Slaughter, in the Zachary area, right on that East Feliciana line. But I am going to put a book together. The thing was, the Hayes family is huge, but the Anderson family, everybody's named after each other. Right. Everybody had at least 10 kids, and they named them after a sibling. So there's about 15 Albert Andersons, 15 William Andersons, 15 John Allen, 15 Caroline Andersons. So I had to make sure that I go to grave sites and get the correct date of birth and the date of death. So I was able to go to the state archives where I obtained a lot of death certificates. So that gave me the information that I needed.
Okay. And it's not a time that I visit Zachary on Plank Road, and then I make my way over the creek, as they say, to make sure I see some of the elder Andersons, and definitely always love going back. Also, talk about some of the things you're involved in the Baton Rouge community, and how can people support you and find out more information?
What people can do to support me is to start hosting podcasts, meetings, not just teaching people to vote, but why to vote, who to vote for, why to vote for that individual. We've got to start holding politicians accountable. That's very important. But a lot of people don't know what their duties are. We must know the duties of each one of these politicians so we can know how they better serve us. We have to be mindful. They didn't fill out an application and got hired. They are elected by the people. We have to get out and vote, but it's very important to educate people on why they are voting. It's important exactly for example, for judges. I tell people all the time who say, I don't like to vote. But if you're going to court, whether you vote or not, that judge has authority to put you in and out of a prison. So voting should be very important to you. So to contact me will be Tawanda Boatner on Facebook.
Okay. All right. And do you have any contact information for business inquiries, like an email or even a website that I can also share?
Just Facebook now. I don't have a website as of yet, but I'm working on one at the moment.
Okay. All right. And also, I do recall many times going over across the street from my grandparents' house and talking with Benny Hayes.
That's correct.
That lived directly across.
Yes, Pop Benny. There, as a matter of fact, I went to the assessor's office to make sure there's a particular part of Zachary that's named Hayes Estates. And I have the map. I want to make sure it was still intact and to see what I need to do to keep it intact. So they named it Hayes Estate because Pop Benny bought so much property. He bought at least 15 lots, and each one of his children were given a lot. But it is a map called Hayes Estates for the property that he bought many years ago, which was unheard of for a Black to be able to purchase that much property at one time.
Oh, no, that's incredible. And again, I want to definitely thank you for coming on. And I want to see if you want to give any shout outs to some of those who will be looking at the feed.
Yes, I would like to give a shout out to my son, Marty, my daughter, Sade, my sisters, Latrice, Shirley, Angela, and Karen, my grandchildren, to Attorney Gail Holland for referring me and making sure that you write this book. You don't just put this information out because your grandfather was so popular, somebody else will write a book. So you need to be the first one. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful to see Bishop Albert Anderson III continuing the legacy at Winding Chapel Church. That church had 4 pastors. All of them are born Anderson. My grandfather was married to an Anderson. So he had the divine favor of being a pastor there for 15 years.
Okay.
So a special shout out to them.
Absolutely. And again, I want to thank you for coming on. Continue to do the great work you're doing. And if I could be assistance in any way, let me know. And again, great job and great legacy. And I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a good day now. You take care.
You too. Okay. Bye-bye.